My first question is for the both of you. You both starred in a number of horror projects before. Henry, you've done all the work with Mike Flanagan over the years, and Sarah, I know you were in A Wounded Fawn, and you have a Desert coming out sometime soon. I'm just kind of curious, what was it about The Curse of the Necklace that stood out to you and kind of made you want to be part of this project? And Henry can start with you.
Well, my involvement comes directly from working with Violet years before on Haunting of Hill House.
Hmm.
And, this project kind of came to me through their mother, Jackie, and and I guess them as well because they were executive producers. So they had a say in who they wanted to cast. I'm very grateful that they thought of me, and I was happy to work on it.
Sure, sure, definitely. Yeah.
I read the script and then watched JP's movie Pumpkinhole and was so impressed by the performances in that and the space that he gave to the characters and the relationships that I was certain that this would be a movie that would explore those as well. And I think that's really interesting and particularly interesting in a horror film. I think it
Sure.
elevates and even pays it off a little bit better, or it can.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was one of the things I loved about it. It's a horror movie, you got all your scary stuff in there, but the family drama is really kind of at the heart of it. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought the dynamic between your characters was really interesting too, and added like kind of a lot of depth. Tell me just a little bit about what it was like kind of filming those scenes together, because it's kind of the dynamic is like kind of intense at sometimes where you guys are trying to reconnect but can't really make it work. Was it challenging at all to kind of do those scenes together?
Um, I mean, I think it was challenging for the characters, but it was well written and it was well shot, and all the actors were so good that it was just really fun to play around with. There's so much uncertainty and there's so much strife between them all. I think maybe Frank and Laura was the a little more difficult because it was pretty strifey between them. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you spend so much time uh, in the first part of any horror film, sort of grounding it in a firm reality, you know. And unfortunately, we can all relate to uh, interpersonal strife, in relationships and uh, marriages, friendships, anything. So it is a touchstone. Unfortunately, it's a touchstone for everyone. We can all relate to that. And by making that as real as you can, uh, you bring the audience into your world and, they start accepting the less believable things.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And Henry, that was something I really liked about your character too, because he had a lot of layers. On the one hand, he's trying to reconnect with his daughters and his wife. He also has some past history that kind of comes out at times in not the best ways. But also, every now and then, you had a line that had me cracking up. Like, there's one part in the police station where you're talking about where you got the necklace. And you just said, I wash it off. It could be worth a lot of money. I was dying. That was so funny. So I just thought it was really interesting how there are so many different layers to this character that you're playing.
Yeah, poor Frank. He just doesn't have it together. But um, but yeah, it's often funny, and it's often funny when you're working on a horror film in between takes and on set because making a film is often like watching paint dry, and there's a lot of downtime. Uh, and the more ridiculous fantastical the circumstances are, the funnier it gets. So yeah, uh,
Sure.
you have to always remember you're not in a comedy.
Sure, that can be hard sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sarah, I'm curious kind of what it was like working with Madeline and Violet. Because obviously, like you said, they're executive producers, but they're also sisters in real life, and you get to play their mom, and there's a lot of scenes with the three of you. Sometimes kind of happier scenes, sometimes more intense scenes. What was that dynamic like?
The we hit it off so quickly. The three McGraw girls and I did. The third one is off camera for the whole movie, and that's their mom. They're three of the loveliest, most easygoing, easy to get along with, generous, kind people I've met. And there's a family vibe on this movie in so many ways, obviously on screen, but the production company, like they all work together constantly. So they're like this family unit, and then an actual family was on set.
Mhm.
And it was really helpful to me because I'm not a parent and I was nervous about playing one a mother believably. Um, Having that bond made it a little easier. Um, they're just I don't know, not enough good things can be said about Violet and Maddie. Like they're the most lovely girls and they're so talented and they're so professional. They're so nice to work with. The only thing about them is that they get along so well. I don't know how they were able to so believably fight with each other because I don't think they even fight like that when they do, if they ever do.
Sure, especially right in the beginning of the movie. You can tell that they're like actually sisters because it seems like they're at each other's throats the whole time. I thought that was great. Yeah, you as the mother, that was great too. I thought that dynamic totally worked, and I loved it.
Thank you.
Henry, I mentioned Mike Flanagan already once before. You've been in a bunch of series. I'm just curious. I'm thinking of something like Midnight Mass and how that character is kind of I think two sides of the same coin, where in this movie you are the father who's been kind of cast out and trying to reconnect, and in Midnight Mass you're the father who's there but kind of struggling to accept his son and everything after everything he's done. Did you find any kind of like similarities between the two characters when you were working on this, or did your time on Midnight Mass influence your performance here at all?
Well, no, I mean, I think, you know, they're the same in the sense that they're from the same generation of men, that handled things in a certain way and thought that, you know, their wives should stay home and work and not have lives outside of the home and just, you know, basically um, the old guard, stay in your lane sort of attitude. Um, so they're kind of cut from the same cloth, but and I know that because these are people that I saw growing up who, this generation of men that kind of came before us. So it's a very real it's a very real trope that I'm playing on.
Sure. No, definitely. I thought it was really interesting too. It's like I said, kind of you see some similarities but also differences and exploring that trope. Real quick, I just wanted to talk to you guys about the third act in the movie too, because some stuff goes down. I don't want to get too much into it without spoiling anything, but some big kind of crazy things happen, and there's almost like an exorcist vibe to some of the stuff that happens towards the end. I'm just curious, kind of what it was like filming these big final moments, and was there any like special effects involved in any of it, or was this all practical?
There were some effects, but it was mostly practical just because we made this uh, on on quite a, a limited budget, and we were forced to do a lot of practical effects just out of necessity. Um, but JP, the director, was so instrumental in the feel and the pacing of everything. And our DP did an excellent job making it look like we had a lot more money than we did. So, that's just movie magic right there.
Sure, sure.
I really like in horror movies. Once you've done a few of them, you realize like, okay, you could just run around and scream, and
Yeah.
like that can get you most of the way there, and it's not very much fun. And I think it's also um, audiences can deserve better than that. So crafting sort of an arc of terror for a character. Why and how is this moment specifically scary, and how does it build on this, and what's the trajectory and sort of unique path of this woman's fear and terror. I think that's really, really fun. And honestly, it felt like it was half the script, like the third act. It was long. It's a lot happens, and yeah, so it was really a fun challenge to sort that out.